All right, a big thanks to David for taking the time. I always love talking to him. We don't get to talk a lot. Steelers and Vikings, they are not common opponents, we'll put it that way. But it's really cool when you talk with someone and you interact with someone on a weekly basis at Fans First Sports Network, and you finally get to talk to them about an upcoming game between your favorite team and their favorite team. So I do appreciate it. All right, before we get to the mailbag segment, I want to touch on Defcon levels. There's been some changes, not a lot, but there's been some. Let's start on the offensive side of the football. Let's start with quarterback. Quarterback was a 3 and it stays a 3. And in case this is your first time checking out this segment, remember, a 5 is perfect, a 1 is awful. That's all you need to know. So the quarterback was a 3 and it stays a 3. I can't grade Aaron Rodgers harshly when I feel like he doesn't have time to do anything. Did he have some bad throws? Sure. Were they all his fault? No. There was an initial pass that, third down play, is a broken play. He gets out of the pocket, tries to hit Pat Freiermuth. And guess what? Pat Freiermuth didn't sit down in the zone like he should. Instead, he kind of leaked over towards the sideline. It made no sense why he did that. But that's why the quarterback's just staying at a 3. So some might say he should be a 2. I'm keeping him at a 3. Next, let's go to running back. It was a 2. It stays at a 2. Caleb Johnson essentially did nothing on the weekend. Trey Sermon was activated to the active roster. It was basically Kenneth Gainwell and Jalen Warren, and I thought Jalen Warren was fantastic, but they haven't rushed for 100 yards as a team yet this year, so I can't move this up at all just because Jalen Warren's trying hard. I've got running back 2, stays at 2. They need work. Wide receiver and tight end was a 3, and it stays a 3. We didn't have any DK Metcalf drops. In fact, I think there was only one drop, and that Jalen Warren dropped a screen pass or a little swing route, whatever you want to call it. And ultimately, I just don't think that the pass catchers are the issue. So that's why I was a 3, and it stays a 3. I think the issue is the offensive line, and that's why they are still a 2. I can't say on a day where they give up no sacks and 3 quarterback hits that I can plummet them to a 1. A 1 is people need benched. A 1 is we need to find outside sources or potentially trade for players that can come in and fill in. I don't think they're there yet, but I'm also understanding that it's not good, that it's not pretty. And it's not just Broderick Jones. Troy Fautanu has looked like a first-year player because he essentially is a first-year player. Broderick Jones looks like he's still getting acclimated to the left side again. You have Mason McCormick is hit or miss. Zach Frazier has been penalized. Isaac Seumalo hasn't looked the best. Maybe it's a scheme, but I can't do anything about that. I can only base this on what I'm seeing on the field, and that offensive line is a 2, and it stays a 2. Let's go to the defensive side of the football. Defensive backs, they were a 3. They stay a 3. Love what I saw from Brandon Echols. Jalen Ramsey, didn't hear much out of him, probably because I think he was blanketing Stephon Diggs wherever he went. It's good to see that they could hopefully get Joey Porter Jr. back. They're going to be a 3, and they stay a 3. And by the way, as a quick aside, Chuck Clark, hit the jugs machine, my man. Please go hit the jugs machine after practice. Oh, my gosh. Should have 2 interceptions. I know one would have been negated by a penalty, but still, come on now. Love to see you be able to convert those into actual takeaways. Let's go to inside linebacker. It's a 3. Stays a 3. Love seeing Cole Holcomb being used more. I hate to say this because I really do like the young man, but Peyton Wilson, the less he plays, it might be the better. The less he plays might be the better. And so inside linebackers a 3. I am looking forward to Malik Harrison's return, which could happen week 6, I believe, because he is that downhill thumper they want in run support, and he's been hurt since week 1. Let's go to outside linebacker. It's a 3, and it stays a 3. Nick Herbig is really starting to show himself as a better outside linebacker than Alex Highsmith. Not that Alex Highsmith should be benched, but I do think that Nick Herbig, once Alex Highsmith is healthy, they need to reconsider how they utilize their outside linebackers. They need to say, you know what, Herbig has deserved more playing time. And whether it's him coming in for Watt, whether it's him coming in for Highsmith, doesn't matter. Get him on the field more. He is a menace. He is disruptive. It's exactly what you want from someone opposite TJ Watt getting all the attention. The defensive line actually goes in the correct direction. They were a 2. They go up to a 3. And the reason being is that you've started to see some strides in run defense. Keanu Benton wasn't getting pushed into the lap of the inside linebackers. You saw Daniel, I think it's Ikuale, looking solid out there. Derek Hartman looking the part. Cam Hayward starting to get back into his groove. I liked what I saw from the defensive line. A 3 is not a score that you want to hang your hat on, but it's at least trending in the right direction. Special teams was a 3. It stays at a 3. The coverage units, meaning the return units, were better. I thought the kick coverage, punt coverage is better. It's crazy when you see Chris Boswell only kicking extra points. It's not a bad thing. And Corliss Waitman looked good. I want to see it in a second week, though. They could be going up to a 4 pretty soon if they keep that work up. And the fan Defcon level, it's a 2. It remains a 2. Even though there's a win, a lot of Steeler fans are not happy. They are not happy with the victory. They think it should have been better, should have been cleaner. I get it. Can't disagree with that. But there you go. The Defcon levels have been updated heading into week 4. We will do this again next week and see where we are after their trip to Ireland. All right, it's time for the mailbag segment, time where we open up the mailbag and I answer questions from you, the listener. Not as many questions after a win. It's hysterical. Last week, I think I had 20-some questions. This week, less than 10. That's okay. We're going to get out of here in a timely fashion. All right, let's start with Lori. Oh, Jeff, so many questions, not enough answers. So just one from me, and might even be rhetorical. Are the Steelers going to change their ways enough to catch up with today's NFL? Thanks for all your hard work. I love your podcast with Wesley. She tagged Wesley, by the way. You two or something. That's we do 2 shows. It's the same show. It's once a week. In the off season, we call it The Way We See It. And then in the regular season, we call it For Your Viewing Pleasure, where we preview the upcoming slate of games. You can check that out on the Pro Football Insiders YouTube channel. Go to YouTube, search Pro Football Insiders and find it there. Or you can check it on the audio side on our FFSN NFL podcast feed. So go check that out if you ever want to. But thank you, Lord, for the compliments there. I'm sure I'll convey that to Wesley for sure. But in terms of your question, are they ever going to change their ways? It's funny that you say that because a lot of people in the offseason were wondering, and Lori, you did yourself. Like I remember you asked the question, are they getting away from like the family approach and, you're a Steeler for life and the loyalty aspect? I think the Steelers are changing their ways. The question is are what they doing enough to help them catch up in the NFL? And the one thing that I would say that I feel like the Steelers, and this is from a front office perspective, the one thing I would say that I feel like the Steelers need to entertain to really help them avoid these ridiculous lulls is to get rid of this thought process that we cannot fire a coach just because they're still under contract. And most people will probably know where I'm going to go with this, but I'm going to say it anyways. Pat Meyer, the offensive line coach, if it's him, if it's not the fact that these players are talented, if it's the scheme, if it's the style, if it's everything that he's been doing, I don't care if he has an extra year on his contract. Fire the guy and get someone in there that will be a good fit for Arthur Smith and for the team that you have and the roster that you have. Other than that, I think the Steelers and Omar Khan are heading in the right direction in terms of being acceptable in the modern NFL. But just that's one thing that I would want to pinpoint. Let's go to Jeff Coons. Greetings from Not Matt, Canada. The offense is so predictable and stuck in the mud. Should they change to what worked, intermediate passes to set up the run rather than the go-nowhere runs on second and long? Opposing teams are expecting the Steelers' weekly plan. It's weird how Aaron Rodgers, the play calling has been very limited. And I'm not sure why. I don't know if it's a trust factor with the offensive line in terms of pass protection. I think what you described was, in your words, intermediate passes to set up the run. I think that's what they want to do. I think the fear is that they're going to get their quarterback killed. And if they feel like they're going to get their quarterback killed, even out of the shotgun, and you're not giving him enough time to even see those intermediate routes, that's a problem. But let's also remember the main issue, and I've been talking about this since the Seattle game. The blueprint is not that they are expecting second and long runs. They already know that. Everyone that watches the Steelers knows that on second and long, they're going to try and run the ball to set up third and manageable. What I'm talking about is that if teams don't have to send extra players to pressure the quarterback, they can sit back and it becomes way more difficult because the Steelers don't have a receiving core of separators. They don't. Calvin Austin, maybe. DK Metcalf, no. Roman Wilson, maybe. The tight ends, hell no. Pat Freiermuth can't separate. Darnell Washington's just huge. And maybe Jonnu Smith, but they only run him on these little gadget screens and stuff underneath. It's really dumb. Why did you get the guy if that's what you're going to utilize him as? But still, for me, what you saw, speaking of Jonnu Smith, that pass down the seam to him, that's what the Steelers want. And that was last week in Foxborough, by the way, in case you're wondering which play I'm talking about. That's what the Steelers want to do, and that would open up the run. They just have to protect. Once they start pass protecting, force the defense to bring more players into the box, that's going to open things up. Let's go to the Believers Ride or Die Crew poll of the week. He said, after 3 weeks, the Steelers look like, here are the options: a top 10 draft pick, a wild card hopeful, a playoff lock, or a Super Bowl contender. No one voted for a playoff lock or a Super Bowl contender. Smart fans, these Ride or Die Crew. So I don't think it's a top 10 draft pick. You have to be really bad to be a top 10 draft pick, to the point where last draft, people won 4 games and were barely in the top 10. Think about that for a second. You have to be that bad. The Steelers are already 2-1. So I went for a wild card hopeful. That was my pick. I think that's fair. I think it's fair. All right, let's go to Tyler. This is the guy that won the free swag. Congratulations, Tyler. He said, hey, Jeff, with people calling for Tomlin to be fired week in and week out, would you or any of the fans really trust Rooney and the organization to hire a better head coach? When is the last time the team has hired incredible coaches that are being promoted elsewhere? Thanks. Okay, this is a great question, and it's not the first time we've had this question. A lot of people want to base a coach's value on whatever metric or visual, tangible thing that they can put their hands on, that wrap their brains around. So everyone talks about like the Belichick coaching tree. Sure, they all got jobs, but none of them stuck. Josh McDaniel was a horrible head coach. Matt Patricia was a horrible head coach. Okay, they got jobs, but they didn't stick. Does that look bad on Bill Belichick? I don't know. You look at like the Shanahan coaching tree. You talk about I think one of the most underrated coaching trees is Holmgren. He had the Shanahan. He had, who else was on that staff? I think John Gruden was on that staff. I think he even had some other coaches I think Sean McVay was on that staff. That was when he was in Green Bay, mind you. Just tremendous stuff. No one talks about that. Like John Harbaugh in Baltimore. Believe it or not, Baltimore Ravens fans are saying the same thing about him that Steelers fans are saying about Tomlin, that they need to change it up. But I will say this, the team typically gets the head coaching hire right. And even though the last, close to a decade has been rather mundane with Mike Tomlin, he did win a Super Bowl for the Steelers and has been really successful. So you can't take that away from him. So would I trust the Steelers to get it right? Did they get it right with Chuck Noll? Did they get it right with Bill Cowher? And did they get it right with Mike Tomlin? I would have to say yes for all 3 of those things. Did they let those coaches linger maybe a little too long? That's a debate that we'll have at another time. But that's just my own two. Hey, we're all entitled to our opinion. I think it's a good question. Let's go to James. He says, I have one question and one question only. Where is Roman Wilson? I feel the only time I see him, he's not getting targeted or he's run blocking. I simply cannot comprehend the mini saga of Roman versus significant playing time, end rant. So that's a great question, James. And I think that the only way we're going to see Roman Wilson in any established role this season is if one of 2 things happen. Number 1, injury. Someone gets hurt above him on the depth chart, you'll see him more often. The second is if, for some unknown reason, Arthur Smith says, you know what, we're going to leave the tight end heavy stuff and we're going to go to more of a Aaron Rodgers style personnel. Aaron Rodgers likes 11 personnel, 1 running back and 1 tight end. The Steelers have led the NFL this season in 12 and 13 personnel, 1 running back, 2 tight ends, 1 running back, 3 tight ends. Their infatuation with using tight ends is what's keeping players like Roman Wilson on the bench. It's what's keeping Ben Skoranek on the bench. It's all these wide receivers that they have that might be good assets in the passing game. They are bypassing them for tight ends. That's the issue. So unless someone gets hurt, or unless Arthur Smith says, I don't need to run 12 or 13 personnel as much as I have been, you're not going to see a lot of Roman Wilson. I hate to tell you that. Let's go to Annie. Hi, Jeff. I have 2 questions for you. First, what is up with the cutesy, as Dave succinctly put it, play calling? All right, so she said, do you think the play calling will get more advanced as the season progresses? That's a great question. I think we all have a different definition of what a cutesy play call is or a cutesy scheme To me, it's the long developing plays where you're trying to trick someone. The Wildcat is a cutesy play call. We're going to run it and pitch it back and throw. They haven't done that, but that's just an example. Like a reverse type throw. It doesn't make sense. It depends on when you're doing it. I don't know what is up with those and why they feel the need to do it. Hopefully they just can it and say, let's stick to what works. Second question. She says, what's up with the 7+ yards of cushion we keep giving receivers? A lot of this depends on who they have available to them. So if the Steelers get Deshaun Elliott back and they get Joey Porter Jr. back, now all of a sudden a Brandon Echols, who's been thrust into more of a starting role or playing a lot, is your guy coming off the bench. Think about that. And now Chuck Clark isn't being used as much. You got Deshaun Elliott in there. Juan Thornhill or Jabril Peppers could be used as well. You have more versatility there. You're not stuck in, okay, we have to run these schemes because if we don't, the guys behind us are not going to be able to hold up. So I understand the cushion question is definitely an issue. Let's see what happens when they get all their horses back. Hopefully it's this week in some capacity, but Joey Porter Jr. and Deshaun Elliott slated to return to practice. All right, let's finish this up with some humor as we always do. Steeler Fan 69 chimes in, says, hello, my friend. How many wives can a man have? 16. 4 better, 4 worse, 4 richer, and 4 poorer. That's a good one. Next joke. People often ask me how I smuggle chocolate into the cinema. Well, I have a few Twix up my sleeve. And then, what rock band is the neatest? OCDC. Those are good. I like those. Thank you for those the little bit of humor at the end of the show. I appreciate it. That does it for me. I hope y'all enjoyed this show. I know I did. We'll be back on Friday with Jeremy Jerome Betts talking all things Steelers, Vikings. We're going to give you picks. We're going to give you parlays. We're going to give you keys to victory, all that fun stuff. Make sure you check out SteelCurtainNetwork.com and all of our podcasts on the Steel Curtain Network podcast channel. Wherever you get your podcasts, search Steel Curtain Network. Check us out on YouTube as well, Steel Curtain Network there, on Instagram and putting more stuff out there, Facebook. We're everywhere. Just search Steel Curtain Network, and again, SteelCurtainNetwork.com. But that does it. I hope you all have a great rest of your week. We'll see you on Friday. You know, we finish these out. Be safe, be kind, and God bless. Go Steelers.